Alright, well I'd like to welcome you to round 2 of our How to Read Music series. This video is going to be talking about the staff and introducing Treble Clef. Sorry about the slight delay, but hopefully we'll be back on track. Also, I want to take this opportunity again to thank Make Music, the people who make Finale, for their cool worksheets that I've modified slightly, and encourage you, if you want to play around with some of these ideas, to go ahead and download Finale Notepad and do some exercises along these lines. I'm also going to make some worksheets available in one way or another in the comment section below. So, let's get into the staff. Okay? A staff is 5 lines and 4 spaces that we use to read music. So if you look up here at the top, it's these 5 lines and 4 spaces right here. And we always number the lines from bottom to top. So this is the first line, and this is the first space on the bottom, and then second line, second space, third line, third space, etc., going up. So we start at the bottom with our numbers on the staff and go up, and the staff is 5 lines and 4 spaces always. Now the higher a note is on the staff, the higher number, line, or space it is, the higher it sounds. So this note right here where the arrow is pointing is a higher sound because it's in the 4th space than this note on the 2nd line. So the higher the numbers, the higher in the staff it is, the higher the sound actually goes along with it. Okay? So the staff is a way we determine pitch. And pitch is highs or lows. Okay? It's the difference between this note and this note and this note, or whatever. I mean, I'm just speaking in pitch to some extent, which is kind of like singing, but I'm not going to dignify anything I ever do with the word singing. So pitch is represented up and down on the staff, highs and lows. So, just as an example, let's throw a couple of whole notes in over here. So if we were to find the 4th space, where would that be on this staff? First you need to think about where we start counting from. Do we count from the bottom up or the top down? Hopefully you said from the bottom up. So if we have our first space, on the space, notice the note fits exactly in between the lines. Our second space, our third space, our 4th space. Boom. So there's our 4th space note. What about line 3? Well, if we count up for the bottom, 1, 2, 3, that's where it goes. Line 4, is that going to be the line above or below the line we just did? Remember, line, not space. That's right, it's going to be the line above. So is it going to sound higher or lower in sound? Now, do you think it's going to be a lot higher or a little bit higher? Hopefully you said a little bit, because they're kind of close to each other. See, the distance between these are kind of close. If I stuck one up here on the top line, on line 5, it would be different. Or how about space 1? Is that going to sound close to line 4? Or far away? Is there going to be a big jump in pitch or a small jump in pitch? I'm sure you just said or thought to yourself, big jump, which is good. Okay? And then space 3, where would I need to put it? Right here? What about right here? Is that 3rd space? Nope, right there. Awesome. And then line 5 at the top. And line 2. Hopefully that makes sense to you how that works. Now let's just listen to what this sounds like, and let's hear the differences between the high pitches and the low pitches. Okay, so hopefully you could hear that as it went down in the staff, it went down in sound. And as it went up in the staff, it went up in sound. So, just a quick little game, and I'll let you do some of these on your own if you want to download the file. But, which one of these two is the higher note? Is it this one or this one? Get a little Jeopardy music going on here. And hopefully it doesn't take you that long. It's of course this one. What about right here? Which one is the higher note? It's the second one. It's in the 2nd space. A little bit trickier. Which one is the higher note right here? one right below the staff, or the first line. Hopefully, even though these are close, something we call a minor second, or a major second, which we'll learn about later, it's the E in treble clef, or the so hopefully you can see which one is higher. Same thing here. Which one is the lower note? Well, it's the one on the fourth line of our 5 lines and 4 spaces. So hopefully that makes sense, that the higher it is on the staff, the higher number line or space, the higher the sound. The lower number line or space, the lower the sound. I'm going to come back to this real quick. We can extend beyond the staff, and there are different ways to read the staff that we're going to talk about in a second. But understand that notes can be below or above. So, for instance, if I were, let's say this one said to move it up. It's possible to move a note higher. Now, that's not the line 5 it says, but that is a legitimate note and a legitimate place to put a note on a staff. And you can even add lines to keep going if you need to. So, let's put some of this into context. To be able to read, the staff is not enough. More information is needed to be able to read music. This video, we're only going to talk about the treble clef, but there are other clefs that exist. So a clef is a symbol like this that appears at the beginning of each staff. Okay? And what it does is it tells us what letter names go along with what lines and spaces in the staff. So every line and every space has a letter that's associated with it to help us read. In a musical alphabet, it's the same as our regular alphabet, except there are less letters. How many letters do you think are in the musical alphabet? Well, if you looked at the little graph just to the south of where my mouse is, you see A, B, C, D, E, F, and then G. So we have our 7 letters of our musical alphabet. And that's it. Those are the only 7 letters that we have. Now we do things to them and we move them around a bunch, but those are the only ones. When we get to G, we have to start over again at, that's right, A. And what about if we go backwards? Let's say we're going G, F, E, D, C, B, A, then what? That's right, we have to start over again at G, because there are only 7 letters in the musical alphabet. Now there's a couple of different ways to think about these things. This worksheet has just listed them the way it is, and you can memorize this. This is what I did when I was starting to read. But some people find this confusing. So we'll start here and we'll work our way into some other tricks. Okay? The first line is E, then space F, then G, and it goes up. Just in this way it's written here. Now, if you have a hard time remembering that, we can break it out into 2 different areas, the lines and the spaces. So if we think just about the lines, we have E, G, B, D, and F. And some people find it easy to remember if they think of the sentence, every good boy does fine. So if I think every good boy does fine, I have the word every good boy does fine. The first letter in each word is the name of the line, starting from the first line, because we always start from the bottom when we're thinking through our staff. So starting with the first line and working up, we have E, G, B, D, F, every good boy does fine. And then once you've done that, the spaces spell the word face, F, A, C, E. So if I'm thinking through my spaces, and I simply do every space, I have F, I have A, I have C, I have E, and it spells face. My lines, whoops, my lines are slightly different. And for those, I can think of my sentence. Every, oh, I'm going to have to make that a little smaller. But for now, every good boy does fine as it goes up. So our treble clef, when it's attached to the staff, tells us what letters go where. Or, if you want to think about it a different way, it tells us which line in space has which letter. So let's put this into a little bit of practice. So if we're thinking about this right here, and let's pretend that it had a treble clef. Okay? What would be the letter that goes along with this line? Well, hopefully you either have committed to memory, looked up here at the chart, or remembered that the lines are every good boy does fine, and since that's the fifth line, it is F. What about the third space? That's right, the third space is C, F-A-C-E in face. Or, looking here. Now, one of the best things to do to get quick at just remembering the order of the letters, there's two things you can do. Exercises like this, where you're trying to associate letters with lines and spaces, or here are the letters and you draw in the lines and space, or you draw the notes into the lines and spaces. And we have several here for you to do from that we're going to come back to. Or to steal from a really fantastic music teacher that I know, you can work on some chants. And the way that the chants works are you have to do the letters in order. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay? Then you have to do the letters backwards. G, F, E, D, C, B, A. Then you have to do the letters in order starting on the second one. B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Then going backwards. A, G, F, E, D, C, B. Then continuing on and starting from C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And so on and so forth. There are lots of different tricks and lots of different ways that you can do this to commit this to memory. You can even use the extremely traditional way of knowing that this little curl here curls around the line where G is going to be. So another name for the treble clef is the G clef, because it tells you where G will be. G is on the second line. Every good boy does fine. So lots of different ways to go about doing it. There's not really one right way. It's more a matter of finding what works for you so that you can look at it and get through it quickly. So going back to this real quick, what would the first line be? The bottom line, the first line. Hopefully you said E because it's the first word in that sentence. Every good boy does fine. Or you remembered that the first line, without being able to look at the chart at the top of the page, was E. And you have to get that where you can do it quickly, where you can look at it. If this is in treble clef, this line. Actually, let's look at this bottom line. That way you can work on the second line on your own. If this bottom line was in treble clef, it's F, E, A, B, G, E, D, F, E, G, D, D. And you've got to have it eventually to read music where you can do it even quicker than that. But that's a process. We all start somewhere. But that's where the goal is. The goal is to have it memorized. It's like your multiplication tables. You want to be able to have it where you really know it. Okay? Next video, we're going to talk a little bit about the bass clef, which takes the same idea of the staff, but mixes up where the letters go.